A topic that's really come to my mind recently is thinking about how when we get married, we know, like we say, for better or worse, which means we're going to have seasons where we're both doing great and then we're going to have seasons where we're both doing really bad. But we don't recognize that there are seasons where maybe one partner is thriving and the other partner is really struggling and in a really dark place. We have had those seasons where I was the one that was experiencing depression and Wes was fine, or Wes was and I was fine. And when you're in that, you think, this is my forever. This is our new normal. This is marriage, and I don't want to be a part of it. So it's really easy in those seasons to check out or completely disconnect from each other. And so we are going to be talking about those seasons and even like codependency, what that actually is and how it plays a role in relationships. So welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open the emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I'm your host, Tera, and joining me is trauma-informed lead Connection Codes coach, Echo Hill Vetter, and I'm going to say it wrong again.
It's like tradition now.
It is tradition now. I'm so sorry.
It doesn't bother me.
Echo Hill Vetter and the amazing Phyllis Hill, co-founder of the Connection Codes, the Guide to Human Connection. And we are so glad you're here.
We love doing podcasts with Echo, and it is such an honor. And I know it's quite the sacrifice to give up a day in your life right now, and it takes a lot of coordinating. So thank you for being here today with us. And we love to talk about really topics that we believe you as listeners can relate to, but we also love to talk about topics that are real for us right now. I've been pretty open with just where I've been in the last, few months of my life after selling the house and moving and realizing I had no reserves. I was running on no fuel. And, that's a tough season. And Glenn did not experience it the same way. And it's kind of, I think each of us have our own stories as far as we have definitely memories of being in a time where we were struggling and our spouse wasn't, or vice versa. They were struggling and we weren't. And it is kind of one of those where, how do you navigate those? We talk a lot in the Connection Codes, like how to process the emotions in the moment, how to stay connected when people always call it your communication style, and it's kind of like, I think to me, it's more that we just experience things differently. Glenn can say something completely thinking he's being positive, and I hear it, it's a pain experience for me. So yes, with Connection Codes, we're showing up in the moment, being able to say, oh, pain. But this is, I think what we're wanting to talk about today is a bit bigger. It's like when you're in a season of sad or a season of pain. And I think too that sometimes even in your relationship, in your marriage, you may be the one who feels it in a bigger way. Like I think about when my dad passed away, my sad was very big. Like I was really struggling. I cried all the time. And Glenn and I were married. We already had 2 children. So there was a level of you have to function. I had to get up. I had to get out of bed. Echo, you were 5 and you were going to kindergarten. Like I had to, and Glenn was going to work every day. So it's like there was, and then Sky was 2. So I had a 2-year-old at home. So I had to function, but I was in a season of sad for about a year. And Glenn was not. He wasn't feeling the sad, that his body was not feeling the sad that my body was feeling. I can think of other times in my life where my sad was huge. 2020 was, I would say for me, polar opposite than Glenn. I think he was living his best life in 2020. Like having to stay home. Oh my word. Not be like, you can't go anywhere. You're, quarantined or whatever we were. I can't even remember the terminology anymore. Isn't that something? It's been 5 years.
5 years.
5 years. What was it? We were all, the world stopped for a while.
That's the word.
Is it quarantined? Okay. Thank you. So Glenn loved it. He was like living his best life. I could barely breathe. I could not breathe.
Yeah.
Like my world shattered in 2020. And it is a challenge when you're in a really sad season and your spouse is living their best life in that moment. So we want to kind of break that down today.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot about some of these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I would say even the opposite too. It's really difficult when you're in a great season and your spouse is in a really painful season. I mean, for us, from 2013 to 2017, Wes was in a really, really dark season of his life.
Wow.
And I didn't have any tools, didn't know how to help him. And I remember just like reaching the point one day, loading the dishwasher and thinking, well, this is my life from now on. This was not what I thought I was marrying into. This is just our life for forever now. And not recognizing all that he was going through as an individual. Looking back, and even in it, I knew it was big, but I didn't know how it felt in his body. And so it feels really dark when you're like, okay, well, now I'm just married to this depressed person now. I'm married to this anxious person that just had a baby. Like, this is who they're going to be forever.
Yeah.
And to not give up on that and know what to do next. Yeah.
The first thing that comes to mind, and we've acknowledged this even together and on the podcast, is how isolated we live as a culture now.
Yeah.
And how we tried to replace, this is something that Tera talks about. We've tried to replace the village with a spouse.
Yes.
And so we think, rather than what was always true for all of time, of the human has a need, or the body has needs, the human has needs, and those needs are met by a village.
Yep.
Now we function as though those needs are supposed to be met by a spouse.
Yeah.
By one person.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is part of why when we do have a spouse who's in a hard season, a season of suffering, it does feel so overwhelming. Yeah. Because if my spouse is supposed to be meeting all of my needs and vice versa, number one, I'm carrying their suffering because I believe it's my job to fix it. Right? But vice versa, where they're also thinking it's my job to fix it.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have this belief, usually an unconscious core belief, that I'm supposed to be everything for you. You're supposed to be everything for me. So if one of us is in a season of suffering, we are both in a season of suffering.
Can we break that down just a hair? Because that TED Talk from Esther Perel was really mind-blowing for me. It was just in the last couple of years that I've watched. I think I've prefaced it on here. But what you're describing, we expect our partners to be our comedian, our therapist, our lover, the father of our kids, the provider of our family, the house manager as well. Like, there were so many hats. Like, you make me laugh, you make me sing, like, you are my entertainer. Like, it is so much more than just dad, husband, that's it. That's how we typically put them in those categories. But my best friend, my secret keeper, the holder of my heart, like, she goes into so many roles that we do. We have this one person that carries all of that for us. Yeah. And it's heavy. That's a unrealistic expectation, because then you're right. When that person is in a season of suffering, we are suffering deeply because we don't know, we're alone. We don't have anybody else.
Yeah. And it may even sound like sweet on paper, but the reality is it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because if we have that type of interaction, or if we have those types of unconscious core beliefs, if he's sinking, then I'm sinking. And so by definition, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? I can't rescue a person if I'm also drowning.
Yeah.
That's not how life works. That's not how relationship works. And so part of what has to happen with that is creating a healthier expectation. And as paradoxical as it is, where you are actually depending on multiple people, not just each other. I think at first, when we first learned these lessons, we're like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how can that be what closeness is, what intimacy is, what marriage is, what connection is? How can that be? It's just that that's just how it works, right? Whether it sounds good or not, if it doesn't function, then it doesn't matter. And so if I'm trying to be everything for him, and if I'm believing that I'm the beginning and the end, I'm the end all be all, and therefore, if he's depressed, therefore, if he is in a crisis, therefore, if he is sinking each day, that it is my job, that it's my responsibility, that it's my burden to bear, it literally can't work.
Yeah.
He will sink us both, or I will sink us both. And there will be no one left to do the rescue, to perform the rescue, right? And so part of that, and I know it's hard. Like, I live in modern America too.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to find a community. I know it's hard to find friendships. I know it's hard to find people who will actually be there for you. But some of it is just first acknowledging that we even need that. Because if we can't acknowledge the need, we're not going to go after meeting the need, because we don't even know that we have the need. And so to first reckon with that this doesn't work. They told us it would, and it didn't. It looks sweet on paper, but it doesn't work. And so searching that out, seeking that out, where we do have other relationships that are able to be there for us.
Yeah.
Where we are, it's like even spreading out, spreading out the need, spreading out the things that we're processing, right? I don't have to process everything with him and only him.
Yeah.
Again, sounds sweet on paper. Just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Just doesn't work. And so having other relationships that I'm able to share with authentically, and having other relationships where I'm able to say, will you show up for me?
Yeah.
Will you show up for me? And then to be specific in this way.
Yeah, I think I have so much firing in my brain, and I don't want to forget one of them. But to this, I think that's such a good point, because I hear you say that we live in modern day America. We understand building relationships is difficult. And I am almost at a point now where I wouldn't say it's difficult. I would say it's awkward. It's awkward at first, getting over those initial things, but everyone is desperate for friendships.
Desperate.
I know so 100%. Many women right now that I've interacted with recently, like they want to find other women. And so it's just, okay, if so many people are desiring that, it's there. Yeah. It's awkward. It is awkward. My most recent close friend, the first time I had lunch with her, because I've experienced a lot of rejection from women in my past, a lot of really deep pain. Wow. And so I was like, I'm just going to tell you exactly who I am up front, and you can reject me now if you want to. We never have to have lunch again. Yeah. And I did. I was like, this is what I believe politically. This is what I believe religiously. This is who I am. And we are so close now. Like, I'm having dinner with her tonight. Very close. Wow. And she had the option to opt out. Yeah. And that would have been okay because I would have invested 6 months of my life, and then she rejected me later. Yeah. Was it awkward? Yeah, it was totally awkward. But I got home and I was like, Wes, I did it. And then she texted me that night and I'm like, oh, I think she actually likes me.
Like the real me.
The real me. The real me. Yep. But we want that. Men want that. Oh, yeah. Women want that. It's just being willing to step out of your house and have a conversation. And so I'm getting core level anger about it because I want people to stop sitting on their butt. I hear the awkwardness. I hear the pain, but you have to step outside because that is where life happens. So there's that. I just have that like passion in me because I want women to find beautiful friendships while also recognizing the pain that can come in friendships.
Risk.
It is a risk. And I hear that and I've been there.
Everything meaningful requires risk.
Yes, absolutely. And the other part of this conversation that keeps firing for me that I really recognize now is that when we are in partnership and our husband or our partner is sinking, maybe the loss of a parent or an abandonment from a parent or a health issue, whatever, a loss of a job, anything, I think there's resentment that happens there. Like, come on, hurry up, get over this. I need you to be happy, so I'm happy. Like, we want to rush our partner through their experience because we need their happiness for our own happiness and security, so they can be our lover, entertainer, comedian, like all of those things. But what we are doing in that is we are not giving them permission to exist. our partners get to exist. Just like I will go through a winter season where it's cloudy and it's dark and I experience seasonal affective disorder or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I have that right to exist. I have that right to experience that. But we often forget that our partners have the same right.
Yeah.
And we don't give them permission to be fully human and experience sadness. That was so much of our story of if I was hurt, Wes got mad. He would be mad about my hurt because he would feel so much guilt about it. We've worked through it now. We've processed a lot. Like we have so much healing in it. But if I felt hurt from him, he would feel so much guilt. He would be mad at me over my hurt. He wouldn't let me be human and experience a painful emotion. Yeah. And in the same way, when he's in a season of darkness or depression, I'm just trying to fix him. I'm just trying to skedaddle him along. I'm not giving him permission to work through that process. So that's just really heavy for me to see our partners as full humans. Yeah. It's easy for us to forget that part.
I think what you just said, I hear from listeners, from clients who say it's that taking on, like your partner is stuck in pain. Maybe they are I don't know if reliving is the right way to say it. That may be too active, but they are experiencing over and over a hurt from 10 years ago. And they're expressing their pain, which that is healthy. But what happens for the partner in that is the either carrying it, taking it on, feeling I feel hurt that you're still processing that pain, or I feel guilt that you're still processing that pain. And so
I also think they feel abandoned because that partner is all of those things for them. And now they're not showing up as all of those things. Yeah. So I think there's an abandonment element of it too. Like I look back at that for us, I felt abandoned by Wes.
It is that ability to actually just see them as this is their journey. As in, I don't have to fix it and I don't also have to take it on.
Yes.
Like they're expressing, you caused me pain, and you're able to kind of hear their pain without letting it sit in your gut or without taking it. It takes some compassion to hear someone's pain, especially when it's you caused the pain, like it's that ability, which I think is really hard. I think it is hard because what I was sharing was like, I went through a season of sad in most recent 2020 that didn't point fingers at Glenn at all. He wasn't the creator of COVID, or he wasn't the creator of all the sads that I was experiencing. So there was nothing there except it was my sad, and I didn't like it. It was so unexpected. Like it was a sad I had not. I could feel it in my body. It was this dark cloud that would come upon me, and I could physically feel it pressing me down into the ground. And I've shared this many times. I would put my boots on and I would run out of the house into the woods because I could breathe. Because I would feel that I'm like I can't take a breath. But if I got outside and ran into the woods, I could breathe. I could take a deep breath. And I did that over and over in 2020 because I learned, that's what my body's telling me to do. So do it. But I think for Glenn, it was a lonely experience because it kind of left him out. I didn't grab him to run into the woods with me. I went by myself into those woods. Yeah. But I do think for the partner, it's real easy to want to fix it. Yeah. To want to bring happy, joy, vibes. And it is hard to let your partner go through that season of sad or pain so desperately you want to fix it, but that's not what the partner needs. Yeah. And they just need to know you're still there through that season. And the other thing I wanted to say after what you just shared, because you were talking about women and friendship, but I know we have men listeners as well. And I always think, man, men have a harder time finding those friendships and knowing where to go for those friendships. And it was interesting. This morning, we got to see Wes for a few minutes. So, Wes, I'm talking about you. Hope that's okay. But I said to him, Wes, my son Sky wants to go flying with you. And talking about multiple things, Wes said, I don't really ever believe that that's true. And I really want to go back and revisit that with Wes, that is his something, that is his kind of truth about relationships. Like when someone says, hey, I want to have lunch with you, he doesn't really believe that they want to have lunch with him. And so he even said, oh, that'll never happen. People just say that.
Interesting.
And I thought, well, first of all, that's a sad narrative of relationships, right? But I also think of that. I actually myself sent a text. I have a dear friend that's a DJ on the radio. So when I hear him, I know he's in the studio, and I send him a text and I say, I love hearing you on the radio. And then I'm like, I miss you guys, want to get together. And he says, let's get together. And then we don't get together. Right. And I hate that. And I hate that Wes brought that up today, because I'm like, I really do. I don't want to be that person. I really do want to make it happen with friendships. And that has been something Echo and I talked about on our road trip, that my desire is to cultivate friendships. But I don't always have the capacity, but I feel like it's really healthy. So how do I not become another statistic that Wes talks about? Like, how do I actually pull out my calendar and go, hey, friend, I have this and this date available. Yeah. Does that work for you guys? It's that, to me, it takes that little bit of a step.
Yep.
Like to actually, we're going over to some dear friend's house this Saturday night. So now we're in February, and the last time I saw him was November. And they live, 12 minutes from me?
8
minutes from me.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, really? Really? Now we talk, we text, but this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I want friendships in my life, but I don't think I'm the only one who struggles with this.
Yeah.
We need each other.
Yeah.
So what is happening that we cannot show up for each other face to face?
Yeah.
What is that?
We're expending our capacity in other places. I mean, we have an episode we just wrapped about our capacity. And so that's what it is. We're expending our capacity other places. And we also are living more isolated, just like you'd mentioned. And so I think that it is extremely important that we actually do cultivate those, because what we've said, the people in our home aren't meant to carry everything for us. And so we need friendships. We need those relationships for when they need us, for when we need that. Like, we're supposed to be living in community, like you had mentioned earlier. And so, I think it's a capacity issue. I think it really just comes down to that, the willingness to do it. I had somebody last night, and she texted, she was like, hey, I'm going to be in Cool Springs, and I was like, come over. And she came, had dinner with my family, with my kids. I was like, well, we're having a mediocre dinner. Come. And
I love
she just, you're just coming to my home, because I don't have the capacity to make something fancy. I don't have the capacity to clean my house. I don't have the capacity to do anything else. But I want to love on you. I want to spend time with you. So she just came into where we are at.
Yeah.
And I think that is what we are lacking. We also have seen like the best versions of everything. Like, everything needs to be fancy. Everything needs to be planned. And we recently had friends over. Actually, the one that I just was like, this is who I am. She came over recently with our family. They're in their sweatpants. And we had dinner, and it was so casual. We call them cheap tacos. We're having cheap tacos. That means it's like meat, cheese, and tortillas. Maybe we have avocado if it's not too hard. And we just lived normal life with each other without any extra layers. We've complicated things both in our friendships and in our marriage. We've complicated marriage from the fact that you are my end all be all. And if you're struggling, you're not allowed to struggle, because then I struggle, and then we can't function anymore.
Well, and I think so much of it comes down to processing the emotion around all of it.
Yep.
So for example, if we feel this even responsibility, or what comes to mind for me is guilt. So if he's suffering and I'm happy, then I feel this guilt that he's suffering and I'm happy. One of the specific ways this came to mind, and this isn't about emotion, it's about meeting a need. So there was a time where he was working overtime all the time. And what because we've been so codependent, right? Because we've not known how to function as whole humans who just say our need and then get our needs met, not known how to do that for most of our marriage. Through that long, long season of him working overtime all the time, I felt like for every hour he's producing, I should be producing. And I was so controlled by that belief and so controlled by the guilt, the very thought of, well, I can't go to bed because he's still at work.
Yeah.
I can't take a nap. He's still at work.
Yep.
I can't go for a walk. He didn't get to go for a walk today. Like we were so enmeshed and so codependent that his circumstances, because we are two separate people. So we were in a season where his circumstances were very different than mine, right? That's still the case in many ways, where work was demanding things of him that prevented him from getting his needs met. And somehow that translated over to, because you're in a season of life where your needs aren't getting met, then I am obligated to also not have my needs met. Because who do I think I am that I would get my needs met in a season of life when you're not getting your needs met? And we lived that way for years. And deep, deep burnout and resentment. Because of that unconscious core belief. And it wasn't until years and years and years later that we were both at such a low and so all of these core beliefs were coming to light and we were finally processing the beliefs around it and we were processing the emotions around it, where I was able to recognize, oh, it was just the guilt. It was the guilt of, well, he doesn't get to take a nap, so I shouldn't. Well, he doesn't get to go on a walk, so I shouldn't. Like, who do I think I am that I get to do that?
Yes.
And so obviously, like when you say it all out loud, it's absurd. When you say it all out loud, it's so non-functional, right? But if you're not talking about it because you don't realize that that's where you're functioning from, then you just continue the cycle. And so we were both in such deep burnout. We were both so exhausted and depleted. We both had so many chronic unmet needs because of circumstances and because of unconscious core beliefs that it has taken the years since, the 5 years since, to go, okay, that didn't work. So we're going to do something different. And you being in a season of life where you have unmet needs has nothing to do with me. It really doesn't. And it's like we've had to untangle all of that and we're still untangling all of that. And recognizing, okay, if I'm a whole person and you're a whole person, and really what it boils down to is I have wants and needs and you have wants and needs. And are we going to meet some of those for each other? Yes. Yes, we are. Are we going to try to constantly stay ahead of it and just make the assumption and know? And I picture it this way where I'm always like, okay, he might need that and he might want that and he might need that and he might want that, right? That's how we functioned for 15 years. And then now it's more, if you ask for it, so he states, I have a need. Will you meet that need for me? What is the process? What do? I ask my body, can I show up for him in that need? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no. He's still allowed to have the need. He's still allowed to have that need met. But there's going to be times where the answer is, yes, I can. I can show up for you in that way. I can offer that type of support. I can commit that amount of time and energy to that specific thing. And then there's other times where that's not the case. I can't. I do not. My body does not have the capacity. So one of the ways this has come up, like I'm trying to think of examples, because to me, if you can use real life examples, it makes it make the most sense. And so one of the things, and I told Mom this morning, one of the things we recognized, I'm a night owl. My natural rhythm would be to go to bed at around 2 and get up around 10. That's just what feels right to my body. I've also been a mother for 20 years. So that doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. It means I'm either chronically sleep deprived or I'm not in sync with my family. He's naturally an early person, early bird.
Those two people always marry each other. Always.
Madness.
It's so maddening.
It's madness. So he would sleep like from 9 to 5. That's his natural rhythm.
Wow.
He really likes me and he really likes spending time with me. And so he has been out, how do you say that? He has gone with desire instead of capacity for 20 years, 21, almost 22 years, trying to stay awake with me.
Wow.
Because he likes being with me that much. Right? So he has said no to his body. He has neglected and abused his body who so desperately needs to be going to bed around 9 o'clock every night to stay up and spend time with me. Sometimes because I'm asking, other times just because he just genuinely wants to be with me and it doesn't have anything to do with my need or my desire. It has to do with his need and his desire, right? But because we had no understanding of bodies or how bodies work or what bodies need, we just started that cycle immediately after we got married and started living together. And we've stayed stuck in that cycle for all these years. And it wasn't until literally 2 weeks ago, after almost 22 years of this painful, harmful cycle, that it just like hit him in a moment of, I've been harming my body for 20 years, not caring for my body for 20 years, outliving my capacity in this specific way for 20 plus years. I cannot do that anymore. And I was like, and you will not do that anymore. And we will partner together to make sure that that does not happen. It'll happen occasionally, but as a lifestyle, right? How we've talked about, there will be exceptions, but as a lifestyle, that cannot, and it will not happen. It must not anymore, because his body has to be in the driver's seat. And caring for his body has to be in the driver's seat. And we have to make the adjustments together so that his bodily needs are met and he is getting the sleep that he needs on the rhythm that he needs. And we'll figure something out. We'll find quality time. We'll find time to communicate. We'll find time to connect. We'll find time to have sex. We'll figure all that out too. What matters first and foremost is that you are honoring this need. And that we are honoring how we've neglected that need for all these years just because we didn't know any better. We didn't know. And he's been suffering all this time, so deeply exhausted and out of rhythm with his own body all this time in that specific way because we didn't know. We didn't have the language. We didn't have the tools. We didn't have the awareness. And now we do. And so as soon as he spoke up about it, here's the need. This is the need this is how we meet it. And I'm instantly like, okay, now that I can help make happen. Right. I can't think of an example right now, but hopefully I will, as far as a time where he presented, or vice versa, where one of us presented a need and the other said, I don't have the capacity to carry that. I don't have the capacity to show up for you.
I mean, Wes has to have sex this morning, and I said, I don't have the capacity for that right now. Like that is so real. That is a super common need that is requested. And
you tune into your body.
And I tune in and I don't have the which it's like, dude, they're going to be here in an hour. What do you think here in an hour? I've got a shower. I've got stuff to do. But still, like, he has the right of request. And Glenn always says, I have the right of refusal. But now how I show up in that moment to still honor him and show him care and love, it's still important that I do that I'm just not, what do you think? That I completely disregard him as a person. But I think that's so important that we don't disregard ourselves for the sake of our partner. There are exceptions. Of course, there are times where we can show up for the other person or we need to, but as the lifestyle, I think that's the key point there that you're making that I'm really tuning into is that it's the lifestyle part of completely neglecting yourself always for the sake of your partner. And I love how you described your enmeshment as well earlier. I think that is so real that I'm experiencing guilt because you can't do this. So I'm also going to not do it because I have guilt about it. That's real. That's good.
So what you're describing, Glenn is a night owl. What is it called? Rhythm? His circadian rhythm would be go to bed at 2 a.m., sleep till 10 a.m. I am not that person. I'm the opposite. And in some ways, I think we've both have sabotaged each other in it. I think that I stay up later than I should because I know he's sad every night when it's time to go to bed like a little kid. But then he also goes to bed earlier than he really, his rhythm is because he feels guilt. So he's trying to kind of come towards my direction, but I've already gone way out of mine. And something, Echo, you shared with me is something you and Chaz have realized recently is that processing late at night is a total disaster, right? And for Chaz to show up and go, I can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. And I mean, Glenn and I have pretty openly shared that, early on in our married life, maybe it was the first 30 years, I don't know, but we've been together a really long time. So it's where I would stand beside the bed to stay awake because it was always late at night that it was almost like the way it was is if I don't purge all of this, I won't be able to sleep. So I'm going to purge all of this. And then I am standing beside the bed because I am shutting down because I'm so tired that I couldn't sit or I'd fall asleep. I couldn't lay or I'd fall asleep. So I had to stand. And that is so unhealthy.
Right.
And But part of it is what I'm hearing, and maybe you're listening right now going, well, there's never time to process.
Yeah.
And that is where I hear that too. I hear the pain in, is there ever time?
Yeah.
Is there ever time to talk? Especially when you have a lot to say, right? Is that a good way to put that?
That's why I love the connection codes. It's less than my words for sure.
You just get right to
I just get right to the point. Yes. I mean, we used to spend 4 hours like working through something, talking through it. And now we do. Like we say really big things in 2 sentences.
Well, and Glenn talks about the science that this research has come out that we can hear 3 sentences.
Yeah.
And then we just don't hear it anymore. But you may be partnered with someone who always has a whole lot more than 3 sentences. So if you are partnered with someone like that, and it is a pain experience for you, or you're just not even able to take it in, you've got to speak up. At that moment, you've got to say, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pain in my body. I can't. I actually did this with Glenn the other day where he was really trying to help me. And he was pointing out me becoming more aware of when my body gets dysregulated, which is a great point. But then he went on with, many more sentences. And I started getting confused. And I realized it's getting really muddy. It's getting really staticky in here. That's how I think of it. My brain all of a sudden becomes super staticky.
That's huge.
And I stopped him and I said, whoa, hang on. I'm feeling pain. And then I know I didn't do it really right. So let's just go ahead and put that out there. But I said, I don't think you would ever say it in this way to a client. I think you would stay in the lane of just saying, hey, what would happen if you saw when you got dysregulated? Like something super simple.
Right.
And he had a really great response as far as it was really helpful for him. And then later, like hours later, he even came back and revisited and said, that was really helpful. Wow. And I thought, wow, okay. I stopped. When I felt pain, I stopped. I tuned in. I said, wait. Wow. Ooh, can we make it 3 sentences? I just need the 3 sentences. I am a book. What do you call that? Bookcase? A case of, I am like, that is so me. Give me 3 sentences. If you go past that.
Textbook? Is that
I'm textbook. Okay. There we go. I am a textbook on that one. Oh, that is so me.
Wow.
I can do 3 sentences. And after that, it becomes static. And then I'm not even hearing you. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. It becomes white noise. And then I go, oh, come on, girl, you're smarter. Come on. But then I also often go, are you so dumb you cannot, then I'm having conversations in my head. Then I for sure don't hear what is being said to me because I'm going, oh my word, what am I missing? What am I missing? Give me a notepad. I need to be writing because, man, it's gotten so thick and I don't even know what the point was anymore. But it goes back to, I am the kind of person that truly needs 3 sentences.
Yeah.
And when it goes more than that, but I know that some of you listeners are going, oh my goodness, I am the one who is 10 sentences, as in you're telling 10 sentences to get your point across. So you need to kind of go, what kind of partner do you have? Do you have a 3-sentence partner? Because if not, you're missing each other big time in this one thing. And I think that goes back to, you got to speak up when there's pain. Just like, for Chaz to go, I have neglected my body. I have actually done damage to my body because I love you and I want to stay up late, but it's a catastrophe. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I am 60 years old and I've tried to stay up late every day since I married him.
Wow.
Well, and also if you are a person that is a verbal processor, that it takes you a long time to get there, you need a therapist or a coach. That doesn't have to be your partner's. You can come home and share with them the Cliff Notes version. You can process using the core emotion wheel. They can still know what's happening with you. But if it takes you an hour, which is okay, it is okay. I'm a verbal processor. I talk to myself all the time. To get from point A to what you actually need, you need someone else sitting in that seat across from you. And that goes back to we are expecting our partners to be all things to us.
Yeah.
And then we become so enmeshed in them that when they can't be, because they're in their own pain, we feel abandoned and lost and we fall apart.
Yep.
And so that is the core of what codependency is. When we fall apart because our partner is experiencing their own experience at that time. And so how can we enmesh from each other in a way where we feel supported?
Yeah.
Like Wes and I think that has been like the final big layer of these tools that we've noticed in the last year is our level of codependency has dropped tremendously, significantly.
And it feels so good.
And I like him.
Right?
Like,
you realize.
oh my gosh, yes. Like, we are more connected now because he went through a season last fall. He was very depressed. He was he was
hard.
Undoing a 16-year business, like an identity loss, like so much was happening for him. And I was able to just show up as his partner in that and let him do everything he needed to do. And we had the tools, we had the will. So he's cluing me in as he's processing. He got a therapist that he was meeting with during the day. He was doing the work, yes. And we were, as a home, were not falling apart.
Yeah.
He got to be human. And our home stayed solid.
Wow.
And that is not the case previously or without these tools. Yeah. And so I just want to speak into that. I know we need to move into the core emotion wheel. So Echo, do you have any final thoughts about that before we do the wheel?
I think codependency is tricky because like we talked about earlier today together, as a culture, we've been given this narrative that codependency means we're close.
Yeah.
And that is not what it means. It means I feel responsible for you, even though you're an adult, and you feel responsible for me, even though I'm an adult.
Yeah.
And what we actually needed was I'm responsible for me. I'm the main character in my story. You're responsible for you. You're the main character in your story. And I'm the wingman in your story, and you're the wingman in my story. And I have the right to say, I don't have the capacity, right? Like back to the capacity. So it's your responsibility to speak up for yourself, to say what you're feeling and needing. And it's my right to say, I don't have the capacity to show up for you in that way, or I do have the capacity to show up for you in that way. And that's how we disentangle the unhealthy layers so that we can actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Because I have experienced the same thing. We've been in a season of deep, deep processing, and I am enjoying him and liking him more in the last 4 months of this intense processing than I even knew was possible. Like the level of safety that we've been experiencing and the level, even though it's been intense emotion.
Yeah.
Disentangling all of that codependency has allowed me to see him in this whole new light, appreciate him in this whole new light. It's helped process through so much resentment and stuckness and frozenness. And so ultimately that's what we're working through right now is me taking responsibility for me, him taking responsibility for him, speaking up about the emotion, speaking up about the need, but then speaking up about the capacity. Right? So here's my list of needs. Which ones do you have the capacity to meet? And him doing the same thing and then navigating from that place and strategizing from that place. Because that's really what it all boils down to is, are my needs met or not? Are your needs met or not? How do we strategize to make that happen? And how do we involve a village to make that happen versus trying to be everything for each other and swapping the responsibility? Where we have this weird thing where we like carry each other, where I feel like I'm supposed to anticipate your every need, anticipate your every want and dream, and then somehow beat you to it.
Yeah.
And I've been exhausting myself doing that for 22 years. But the thing is, he's been doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so we're both just chronically exhausted and chronically in burnout and have chronic unmet needs. Because instead of me speaking up about mine, I'm just constantly anticipating his.
Yeah.
And he's doing the same thing for me. And so it's been such a relief, like for him to say, here's my emotion, but I'm responsible for it. As in, he's responsible. Let me reverse that. So me saying, I feel this, but I'm responsible to process it. I'm responsible to say it. I'm responsible to meet the need. And sometimes that's going to involve him. Sometimes he's going to be the person that shows up for that. Not always.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to carry it as though it's his burden because it's not his burden.
Yeah.
It's mine. And it's true for him as well.
And it gives each other permission to be human.
So much permission. It's such a relief.
It is. It's like Wes is allowed to have bad days.
Yes.
He is allowed to have pain.
And you're allowed to have good days on the days that he has bad days.
Yes.
Such a relief.
His bad days do not have to dictate my days.
Exactly.
Because he's allowed to have pain.
Yeah.
And once I recognize that, that's what helps me have good days. Is be like, oh yeah, he's allowed to have pain about this letter from, I don't know, untangling a business was just so much, like he has this client that's really difficult to navigate. He's allowed to have bad days about that.
Right.
And I don't have to make it about me.
Yes.
Because that for me, that's where we were at.
Yeah.
He would have a bad day and it became about me because I felt abandoned.
Very much.
I would have a bad day and he would make it about him. And the majority of the time, the reason we were having bad days had nothing to do with the other person. And so that to me has been such a key. And through it all, the reason we've gotten here is because we've had the tools, because we're able to communicate those emotions, because we're able to communicate the needs, and because I can hold space for his pain without taking it on. He can share his hurt, and I feel connected to him without it becoming a weight in my body.
Exactly.
In such an effective, quick method. And so now we are going to share with you the tool that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis created that helps you do just that, where we can connect quickly in just 4 minutes and understand what's happening in each other's body in a way that is safe, in a way that creates partnership and not enmeshment. And so, we're going to do the core motion wheel. Me? I'm going to do it? Okay. Echo, will you hand it to me? I do like to see it. I know that.
It's very stuck.
Is it stuck? It's okay if it's stuck. I don't have to see it then.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It was the magnet. The magnet was.
Thank you, ma'am. Whew. Okay. I've got to think through. My sad is... Actually, it's probably shame. I have gained back all of the weight that I lost. Yeah. 2 years ago, I weighed myself and I was like, I got to do something. And I am back to the weight that I was because I've taken the last month and a half off and not taking care of myself.
Wow.
And I feel a lot of shame about that. Guilt. I do have guilt for this morning because Wes shared a need and I didn't have the capacity to meet it. And so I have joy that I knew what my body needed, but I still have guilt that I couldn't meet what his need was in that moment.
Yeah.
Fear. I have a lot of fear just about the state of our world. Tons of fear about it. Yeah. Not knowing what's going to happen. Lonely. I have loneliness in some work tasks because even right now I'm like, I've got to get this done tonight. Yeah. Lonely and some things that need to get done. Hurt. What is my hurt? Sharp pain. I'll say I feel hurt from, I have sharp pain about the previous years of us living life that way. All of the times where I didn't have permission to be human and that I didn't give him permission to be human. I have hurt from those cycles that we were in for so long. And joy, tons of joy. I'm about to go pick up my kids from school. And I've just gotten a lot of joy about them in the last year. I've processed that. Like, it's new for me to have joy about getting them from school. But I have joy about that and joy because a good girlfriend of mine reached out for dinner tonight. So, joy. Yeah.
Did you say anger?
Yeah. Oh, did I? Anger? Oh, I may have missed the anger. Core level anger, the easiest one that I can touch is just the state of our world and leadership and us not seeing each other. I think that's the core of it, is us not seeing humans and prioritizing, just this, like us and not the world as a whole. So that's a core level anger about that.
Well, I know we need to close it up. I want to go back to one thing you said as we close.
Okay, yeah.
When you were talking about that we can't always process, or our partner is not always the one to process hold space for everything, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that that's when we need a therapist, that's when we need a coach, but we need a village.
Right.
And the village can be friendships, but we got to find those safe friendships. And I know that part of our goal in the connection codes, we're working so hard to figure out ways to connect our community. And I know if you have heard us talk about the coaching cohort, yes, we're teaching coaches how to coach, but they find community amongst the cohort.
Yeah.
And they, after this is over, they continue to stay there for each other, and they're able to connect and go, hey, I really need to process with somebody. Is anybody available? And we want that for the world. We want to create a membership where the world can get together. And we're working hard on that because we do see the need for a village.
Yeah.
So we want you to know that we're not just pointing you away by going, yeah, a therapist or a coach is what you need. We know that it's bigger than that. And we are trying really hard to create a way for you to be able to reach out and any time of day to be able to find someone that is safe for you and to build community with people who have this language. Because I know sometimes we're super blessed. We're surrounded by connection coders every single day that we can physically touch and process with. But I know that's not true for all of you. And you may go, I don't even have that with my partner, nonetheless, anybody else. So we hear that and we do want to help. And we do have coaches. If you go to our website, we do have ways. If you are like, well, yeah, I'd love to meet with Glenn, but I also would love to meet with a coach. Like, we have options, but we also have a bigger goal. We have a goal of creating a way for you to become a part of this community where you can find that instant relationship and safety.
Yeah. I mean, I'll
let you in with that. Go ahead, Tera.
No, like I wish that I had thought about saying that earlier because we have a membership coming. Like that is coming. And I feel like that's what you're sharing as well. Like it's going to be a surprise. Just act surprised when it happens. But yes, we are actively working behind the scenes to create something for you to have a space to share and partner and process and offload where you're at. Yeah. And so it's very exciting. Lots of exciting things happening over here. Thank you, Echo, for being here, for your voice, for your willingness, your time, your sacrifice, everything. It is such a huge value. I know I said that previously, but to us and to our community and for our listeners, thank you for showing up. I hope that this episode has been impactful for you. And if it has, please leave us a 5-star review. Like, honestly, it really helps. And it takes less than 60 seconds. So if you would do that for us, that would be amazing. And share this episode. Share it with your friends. Be like, hey, I know that we see each other like at the pickup line at school. Can we be each other's village? Like, are you also looking for girlfriends?
Yeah.
Because we are. So many women and men are looking for that. And so share this episode with them. And as Dr. Glenn and Phyllis always say,
you need this.
You deserve this. So let's do this.
Let's do this.